Okay, welcome now to the instructions or an introduction to the coding assignment for week 4. And here I have the week 4 instructions opened up, and I'll click the little arrow to see what we're to do. And you're going to be seeing this every week for the rest of the term, a big blue box that pops up that says do this first. And I'm going to be able to tell whether you're doing this correctly or not, so make sure that you read all of these words that I took the time to write. Don't try to skim read your way through this stuff. So the first thing is to copy the HTML file that you created last week and paste it into this week's Dropbox folder. There's a couple of ways to do this. You could come into File Explorer, go back to week 3, copy, and then paste it here inside of week 4. That's one way. But the way that I prefer to do it is just open up the file that you worked on last week here in brackets, highlight the file, or after this week there's going to be 3 files every week. Then come up to File, Save As, find the week 4 folder, and save. And then look in your week 4 folder. May not show up right away, and if it doesn't, hit F5 to refresh. And you'll see that file right here. This is the file from, exactly the same file from up here in week 3. So we're through now with week 3. So after I've copied that file forward, then I want to follow these instructions right here, 1, 2, 3. Copy any files forward from one week to the next into Dropbox folder, and I want to make sure that corrections to these files have been made before I start doing any of the work for the new week. Now there's a statement up here that says make sure that any corrections identified in the grading comments from last week have been made to this file, and then proceed with the following instructions. So what I really would like for you to do is to not change your week 3 file after I've graded it. What I'd like for you to do is just when you're ready to start work on week 4, then just open the file, Save As, copy it forward to the next week, and then in the grading comments, come in and make any changes that I've noted in the grading comments. Make those changes now in week 4 so that your file here in week 4 is perfect. It's got to be perfect because these assignments build on each other. What you do in week 3 will be built upon in week 4 and then added onto in week 6 and then week 7 and then week 8. All of these things are cumulative, so you must have your files perfect as you start the work on each week. All right, so make any corrections once that file is in your week 4 folder. And then our next assignment is to create the declaration.html file. You'll remember from last week. I'm just going to open week 4 here. And new file. And just create declaration.html. Get that rascal opened up here. And we're going to come up to the top and hit our exclamation mark and tab. And then the title is going to be here in instruction 1, Declaration of Independence. Could just copy that. Control C to copy. And then paste. So that's there. I'm going to meta, and then name equals author, content equals my name. You could also go back to the file for week 3 and copy that in here. So now I've got that done. I'm in the body section and I've got all of instruction 1 done. I'm going to mark up the body of the Declaration of Independence. So I have to open that file first. Declaration of Independence text file, and just as we did last week, Control A, Control C to copy, come back into Declaration, right between the body tags, Control V to paste that, Control Home to go back up to the top, and Control S to save. Always keeping an eye down here on the validator, the green circle with the check mark, making sure that it's at least probably all correct at this point. So copy the contents. I've done that. Paste it into the body. Did that. Then use the markup skills that you learned in week 3 to format the file. So we're going to make sure that Declaration of Independence of the United States of America is all in one big H1. So Control-Shift-A and then H1, enter. And then the words in Congress, July 4, 1776, highlight all of that. Control-Shift-A, H2, enter. And we're starting to see, I'm going to get this down out of the way a little bit. Move it over, open up the live preview window. And so now we can see that the first 2 lines are starting to look great now. All right, so we're down to the unanimous declaration of the 13. Let's do this right here is an H3. So I'm going to go ahead and Control-A and then click on my Beautify and start making things line up, because it's so much easier to read when everything lines up as you go. And you see a sample here about what this should be looking like in your code. The next instruction after the H3 was to wrap all the paragraphs in P tags. Now, you can wrap these like this, Control-Shift-A. If you're brave, then you can try to do more than one at a time, but you got to be careful here. Control-Shift-A. Because there is an instruction down here in instruction 3 about creating an unordered list right here. And it's the one that begins with he has refused his assent to laws. And so this next section right here, this is going to be a unordered list. So don't try to wrap this paragraph in P tags. Make sure you read these instructions and it'll save you a little bit of trouble. So the unordered list is going to go all the way from he has refused down through in every stage of the oppressions that we've petitioned. And that's this one down here on my line 74. That's going to be the last list item. So what I could do here is just go ahead and highlight all of this section that's going to be the unordered list. I'm going to highlight all of that, Control-Shift-A, and then do a UL, enter. That way it'll indent and it'll make sure that I don't wind up confusing these blocks of text as a paragraph, because they're not. I'm going to come then down here to these last 2 paragraphs. And as you learned last week, that there is a screen tip, and I used to teach this to the students. The problem is that when you do it like this, I have a lot of students that will, maybe your skills are not as good on computers, so you wind up doing something like this, get all selected, Control-Shift-A, P tag, and you'll wind up with something like this. And this is not correct, and it's going to cause you a lot of problems. Your opening P tag is right here, and your closing P tag is down here. So Control-Z to undo that. And so you're going to write all of that. If you want to use the method that we talked about last week, you can select each of these individually, Control-Shift-A, and then a P tag, and then hit enter, and that will work. But students who don't have a lot of computer skills have trouble doing it that way, but that certainly is a fast way of getting it done. So we have all of our P tags built in, and we've started a little bit of work on the unordered list by highlighting that section. And now we need to come in and put the LI tags around everything. So let's come in here and do these. And again, you can do them one at a time. Control-Shift-A, and then LI. Or, if you're careful, you can do it like this. You hold down the Control key to get the second one. Make sure you're selecting all of these just right. If you make a mistake on one, you'll have to reset and go back to the top and start again. Just keep your Control key held down. Now I just released the control key so I can roll this window up. Control. Oops, see what I just did? If you get nervous about having so much work put into this, you can go ahead and just Control-Shift-A and then Li and get all of those locked in. Then hit Escape, because you see you have multiple flashing insertion points, and that's because right now Brackets is in the multi-line editing mode. So you just hit Escape, and that cancels all of those flashing cursors. And then we come down here and just continue our work until we get all of these marked. Control-Shift-A, Li, Enter, Escape. So we have all of our list items now. So here is our closing UL tag. I'm going to hit Enter to pull that back over. Make sure it's all lining up the way that it should. Oops, I missed this first one, didn't I? So let's come in here, highlight this, Control-Shift-A, Li. There we go. Control-S. Now what we have is everything in one big, nice, unordered list. But there's something we've got to do here. We're going to create, in instruction 4, a sublist within the unordered list. Now, it is essential that you understand how to nest a sublist in brackets within it. If you click on this link here, it'll take you to my YouTube video on how to do that. And also I have other YouTube videos on a lot of this stuff. Make sure that you understand how to do this. And then be sure and check in the Robbins textbook, because you must be able to master how to do this. Now, the instructions here are telling you that you're going to go to the line that starts with for quartering large bodies. You can see here that all of these individual items in this list, it starts with he has, he has, he has, he has, he has, he has. And we get right down here, and there is a section that says for. Every one of them start with the word for. See these? This is going to become a sublist. Now, what we have to do in order to make all of these a sublist inside of this one up here, which says he has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation for doing this, and then for doing that, and then for doing this. All of these belong logically, and that's the way the Jefferson wrote these things when he first wrote the Declaration, is that he wrote all of these items to be a sub-list under this one he has combined with others. Now, the way we do that is really very simple. You simply come into your list items and you find the one that you want to change. So he has, right here. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution. In order to nest a sublist inside of a list item, the first thing you want to do is find the closing tag of the list item that you want to, where you want to insert the sublist. You just hit Enter. Drive that closing tag down. That keeps the opening and closing tags listed right here in their proper order. So I'm just going to keep driving that down a little bit more, and I'm going to stick in another UL. So I'm going to come right in between the opening and closing UL tags and hit Enter. Then I'm going to come down to all of these LIs that have the word for in them. For. All the way down for. This is the last one. Highlight all of them. And then Control X to cut those out. I'm going to come right up here between the opening and closing UL that's inside of this nested list, and then Control V. So I've got all of those moved up here. If you want to make sure that they're all lining up properly, you can do Control Shift A, and then use your beautify. Come back up to your list and you'll see them all lining up nice and pretty the way they should. And then you'll notice here that I have the LI that contains the nested list. Here's the opening LI. Down here is the closing LI. And then inside of this list item, there is a whole coded structure that is a unordered list with all of its list items. And these are all contained inside of the opening and closing LI tag where it's supposed to be inserted. So doing that, I'm going to Control S and then get you to look over in the live preview, and you'll see that he has combined with others and so on. And then all of these 444, these are all contained here as a extra indented sublist to this one list item. You must remember always that the unordered list that you're inserting goes between the end of the content of this list item and its closing list tag. So here down here is the closing tag. If you just click in it once, you can see up here that's the opening tag, and everything goes in down here. So that's done. I'm going to take out this extra line, take out that extra line, make the code look a little bit better. Control S to save, and we're ready to move on. Instruction 5 tells us that for each of the signers of the declaration, we're just going to place them in all one big long list, and we're going to separate them with BR tags for now. And the reason for this, if you look here inside of the live preview window, by the way, I don't know if yours is showing this or not. I think there's a little bug in live preview that sometimes I see we have the start of the file up here, and then I'll scroll down, and mine sometimes will repeat itself. I don't know why I have two showing in here. So here's that list item a second time. I think all you'll need to do, though, is just click refresh on live preview, and then you'll see only one of the live previews. All right, but here in the live preview, when we get down to the bottom, you'll see the bottom block of text down here. This is all the signers, but they're all bunched up against each other as if it's one unbroken long list of names with no separation. So what we're going to do here is come in, and we're simply going to put, for now, we're going to put BR tags around all of these. And what you can do is simply come down to where your list of signers is, and at the end of one, just hit a space, type BR, and then tab, and that gives you a BR tag. So just copy that, highlight it, Control C, and then click at the end of each one. Just paste it. Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V. We're going to come back to all of these in a later week. Maybe it's week 9. We're going to convert all of these into a 4-column list of signers of the declaration. But for right now, we just want these to all be separated on a long single column list and not be bunched up together. So we're just going to stick BR tags in all of these, and what that's going to give us is that one big long list. Okay, now I have BR after all of those names. BR is a command that you read about in the book that says to create a new line after this place. So like right here with Samuel Chase, then the command, the browser is going to see BR, so it's going to automatically just shift down and put whatever comes next on the next line. So just insert a line break right there. And when I save that file, and I come down to the list of signers, then you can see now they're all in one big long list. So all my signers are now in one big long list, and it looks good. Okay, so coming back in. By the way, at this point, you want to be sure that you're carefully making it a habit to always come down and make sure that you still have a green circle with a check mark on it. Because if you violate any of the coding rules, then it'll pop up and give you a warning. And those are a lot easier to fix as they occur than trying to do it again later. All right, the next instruction, number 6, tells you to create a navigation menu inside the body section. And that's going to be real easy to do. We're going to come up here to the body section, and we're just going to type nav and tab, and then enter. Control S to save. And that's all it takes to create a nav section here inside of the body section. So we've done that. And between the opening body and the H1, then insert nav. That's what we've done. Here's the H1, here's the body, so there's the nav. That's instruction B1. Create one blank between them. We did that. Now we're going to create nav links that will enable all of these web pages that we're going to create to link to each other. So since we are in the Declaration of Independence file right here, then what we want up here is a link to the Constitution and then to the amendments file. Control C to copy that. And I'm just going to come right over here and paste it, just like that. Control S to save. Now, that doesn't help you. Typing those in there right now like this is not going to help you at all, because when you come up to the top, you're going to see that these simply continue as if it's one big long line of text, just like those signers were. We're going to fix that here in just a moment. We're going to create link elements, anchor tags, Control Shift A, and I'm going to type an A for anchor tag, and that puts the anchor tag right around Constitution. And I'm going to now just type in Constitution. When I start typing the word Constitution, you'll see it pop up, and just press enter. And it just pastes that right in there. So href equals quotation marks Constitution. And notice what it does over in the live preview. It makes it look like a link. So this is what we're creating now, our hyperlinks. So I'm going to Control S to save that. And we're going to go ahead now and create one to the amendments file, even though we haven't created it yet. Control Shift A. Between the quotation marks, we'll type amendments, HTML, and then Control S to save that. Now you can see that both of our links up here are identified as two separate links. Now we haven't created the amendments file yet, but we will. Now here's the point that you need to remember. We're in the Declaration of Independence right here. And so we would not want, you never are going to have a link to a page from within that same page. The declaration needs to link to the other two files. So we don't need a line up here that says link to the declaration, because we're already in the declaration. Now we're going to do the same thing over in Constitution. So I'm just going to highlight that, Control S, Control C to copy. I'm going to come back into that Constitution file, because we're going to put these right here as well. The nav section is going to be pretty close to the same in all three files, except that in Constitution, we're already in the Constitution file here, so we don't need a link to the Constitution, do we? Because we're already in that file. These links are only to take you to another file. So I'm just going to take out that Constitution right here and type in So now inside the Constitution file, I can click on the link up here to Declaration of Independence, and it takes me to the Declaration of Independence. I can click back to the Constitution, and it takes me to the Constitution. If I try to click on the Amendments page, it's going to tell me that there's no such thing as the Amendments file. And you can tell right over here, there is no file over here for the amendments yet. We're going to get that created here shortly. So I'm going to go back to Declaration. Look at our instructions. Section here about observe what we're doing. It says the Constitution page will contain links only to the Declaration and to the amendments. The Declaration page only to Constitution and amendments. And then the amendments page is going to contain links only to the Constitution Declaration, because you never want a page to be linked to itself. And so come down, and now it tells us that we need to create that amendments file. So you just right click on the week, new file. We're going to call it amendments.html. I'm going to type the exclamation mark and then tab. And I'm going to name this amendments. And then meta. You know, you could type that in if you want to. It helps you to learn the code, but you've also got this already saved over here like this. So you could just come into one of the other files, copy, come back to amendments, Control V to paste that in. Keeps you from having to type it if that's important to you. Now, we're not going to do much in amendments at this time, but what we are going to do is create this nav section inside of the body right here. And we're going to, actually we can just go back to like declaration. We could just take these two lines right here, copy them. Come back to amendments and just paste those two in there. Now here is a link to amendments, but we're inside of the amendments page, so we don't want amendments here, right? You never link a file to itself. Declaration. Change this to Control S to save that. And then it tells us in number 6 here, immediately below the nav section, we're going to type a line that says amendments are coming soon. And we're going to wrap it with H1 tags. I'm going to copy that. Right here after the nav section, I'm just going to type H1, and then right here between the H1 tags, I'm just going to Control V to paste, Control S to save. And now you can see in the amendments page that we have this text about amendments are coming soon. If I click on Constitution, it takes me to Constitution. If I click on Amendments, it takes me to the Amendments page. From Amendments, if I click on Declaration, it takes me to the Declaration page. And from Declaration, I click on Amendments, it takes me here. One thing that you must do, you must always keep checking to make sure that you do not, what we call, break a link. And that would mean that your code has somehow changed right here and that you're not going to the file, or that maybe somehow one of your file names got changed. Whatever you put right here as the href element must be, it must be identical to the actual file name itself. Okay, so we'll come down now to the section where it says add the nav section to Constitution. I've already done that. We've linked the 3 pages together as it says right here. We're doing this with relative links, and it's so important that you understand what we're talking about with relative and absolute links. You must make yourself aware of what relative and absolute and how they differ. And there's a section here for the textbook. Go down. There's a section here that talks about putting the title tag into your links. And the way that you do that is to type title equals, and then this title could equal exactly what you have here. So Constitution, Control C, right here between the quotes, Control V, and then right here after declaration, space, title, equals, quotes, and then type in Declaration of Independence. I'll let you do this on the other 2 pages rather than take the time here. But what it does is that it enables the browser, it tells the browser that if the user hovers over one of these links, then a little screen tip will come up telling what that link is to. The reason I use this, and by the way, not a lot of people use this anymore. We used to use it all the time. But a lot of coders leave it out because it's just extra stuff in the code. But what I think is that by putting the title tag in the anchor tag, you're reassuring the user of your page that that link is taking you where you think it's supposed to go. And could this stuff be fictionalized and somebody could put in something here that's nefarious? Of course they could. But this gives a user a little bit more confidence that that link is legitimate and it's not going to take you to someplace on PayPal or something like that. That's the purpose of the title tag. Now we're going to create fragment links in the Constitution files. We're going to make sure we go there. Constitution. Control S to save this. And it tells you here that fragment links are basically like bookmarks. We're going to be bookmarking location. You have to do two things whenever you bookmark a fragment in your file. Fragment is like a fragment of the page. So if you dropped something and broke it, you'd pick up a piece of it. That would be a fragment of what that used to be. And the same thing here. We're going to be creating fragment links that take us to individual things, like we're going to have a link that takes us just to Article 1, or maybe to Article 2 and Article 3, and so on. First thing we have to do is identify that destination. So it gives you an example here, like the Article 7. So we're just going to come all the way down to right before where the signers start, and that's where we find Article 7. In the article tag, the opening article tag, we put ID equals Article 7. Just Control S to save that. I've had students confuse this a lot, and they'll try to put the ID equals Article 7 maybe here in the header or here in the H2, but I've even had students try to put it in the closing. We never put any kind of attribute in a closing tag. I can't think of any instance where I've ever put anything in a closing tag, but you always put it in that opening tag and make sure that there is a space between the article and the ID. Now we're going to do the same thing for all of our other articles. So here is Article 6. So we're going to put in ID equals Article 6. Make sure there's no space there. Control S to save. Come up to Article 5. Space, ID equals Article 5 with no space between it. Come up to 4. ID equals Article 4, Article 3, Article 2, big long Article 1. Control S to save. Look down at your validator. Make sure it's still green. Now, that's all we've done. We have identified all of our locations. That entire thing is very, very simple. But now we have to link to those destinations. So the first step was we have to identify those destinations. And you come down, we have to link to those destinations. And the way we're going to do that is by coming up into the Nav section right here. It really will help if you'll put a BR tag right there and then enter. And then we're going to have an A tag, so type in A, and we're going to link to an ID called Article 1, and then between the tags we're going to type Article 1, and then you can simply do this, copy this, and then at the end of that first one, hit Enter, 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 paste, Enter, paste, Enter, paste, Enter, and I think we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we simply come in and take Article 2, Article 3, Article 4, Article 5, Article 6, Article 7. Whoops, I messed that one up, didn't I? Article 7. And over here you're going to do the same thing. You're going to put in Article 7, Article 6, Article 5, Article 4, Article 3, Article 2, Control S, and then notice what you've got. That's the whole thing. We identified our destinations, and then we linked to that destination. We named these things with an ID, and as you'll learn, the hash symbol actually is called an octothorpe, because it's got 8 little points around it that stick up. So octothorpe, or just call it the hash symbol. Some people call it the number symbol. And you're going to have 1 before each of these. And that simply means The reference here, the hypertext reference, is to the ID called Article 1. And then there's the English name part. Okay, so look over here in your nav section. Since we put in this BR tag, then all of these fragment links are showing up on the second line. And now if I come into the Constitution file, if I click on Article 7, it jumps down to Article 7. If I click back, maybe click on Article 3, it jumps to Article 3. This is how you create links that are called fragment links to specific locations inside of your file. Now what we want is to have this same kind of linking in the other two pages. So Control-C to copy, go to Declaration. Now there's one special thing we have to do here, is that there is nothing in the Declaration of Independence that's called Article 1 or Article 7, right? So Control-S to save this. So if I click like on Article 4, then it's going to take me anywhere because there's nothing in Declaration that's called Article 4. Article 4 is found in the Constitution file. So what we have to do in Declaration is that we have to come in here in the Declaration file, and right in front of the hash symbol that's there, we have to specify to the browser that this is found in the Constitution HTML file, just like that. Control-S to save. So now if I click on in the Declaration file, if I'm in Declaration of Independence, and I click on the link to Article 1 of the Constitution, it takes me to the Constitution file. And then you can see up here that hash symbol Article 1. It takes me straight to the Article 1 of the Constitution. So you're linking to a fragment that's inside of a different page. You have to always tell it where that link can be found. Now, since I know I'm going to be adding Constitution here, HTML, I'm going to copy that. And then right here where I have the hash symbol with an A, I'm just going to highlight just a little bit of that, and then Control B to select all of the other text that matches that selection. And then I'm going to hit the right arrow because that puts the insertion point at the start of that selection inside that first quotation mark. And then I'm just going to hit Control V to paste, and they all get in there. You see the multiple line insertion points flashing. Hit Escape. Control-S to save. Come to here and highlight all of this in the Declaration file. Copy. Go to the Amendments page. Come to the end here and Control-V to paste. Control-S to save. Now here I am in the amendments. I can see those links I've just done. So can we go to Article 7 in the Constitution file from the amendments page? Click Article 7. There we are. Click back. Takes us to where we were. Go to Declaration. Maybe go to Article 4 of the Constitution. There we are. You must learn to master the skills of making links, because linking to information found in other files, that is actually, at its most basic level, that is the fundamental principle of the entire web, being able to link to different kinds of objects. And that's what you're learning in this week's lesson. So let's take a look here at our instructions. We've got all of those identified. It shows you here what they should look like. Now here you're creating fragment links in other files, and it shows you just what that should look like. And that's done. So make sure you save everything. Make sure that you always validate your code. Make sure that you, on all 3 pages, that you've got validations down here. Make sure that every file is saved, and you're done.